Hey everybody, this is PD from Spin Rack, and today I'm doing a video. This is the close of the first series of the Next Men, and I guess I've skated around the issue. I've done the videos on 2112. Always thought if there was a Next Men movie and they got to do this portion of the movie, it would start out after, I guess it would do a prequel of 2112. 2112 would come out as its own movie. And then it'd start with the final battle between Sathanas and Agent Tannen. They're going at it. And Sathanas delivers a fatal blow. And as they're fighting, this is printed from Steve Olive's colors. As he's escaping, Thomas Kirkland is taking Tannen over, and he's like, can't make it anymore. He's not gonna live. But there's always spies, and his protege Kirkland is ready for the mutates. And as he goes, he figures he knows what he can do, right? He cleans up, finishes things off, and then as Sathanas is ready to his last stand, Tannen is there. And can't believe it. So he has to come closer, but then the government comes and decides they're just gonna take out all the halflings, right? And it's like I told them that they would not stay on Apollyon, and he fulfilled that promise. And you see this big circular hole. And he says here, you look a little bit smaller than you were. And he said, nope. As long as Sathanas is possibly out there, Tannen did not. Tannen has to survive. So it's Thomas Kirkland who died. So his protege takes on. So this will be a bunch of spoilers. I'll write spoilers on this thing, right? And Tannen, who's gone through so much in his trial by fire, is here, right? So we got a little precursor to what we're gonna see here, and I don't want to spoil too much. Right? But this is a big spoiler part of the series. Right? So here, Aldous Hilltop is acting like he can't believe what the Next Men have done, and he wants them stopped. And then as his associate leaves, Axelrod comes in, and we see Jack. And Jack we weren't expecting to see for a while, but he's here, and it seems like the soldier reflex is working on him. If you guys remember that. So far we've had the power thing. They survived power. The trigger gene is out there, transmitted by sex, and that's already out there. And that was Sathanas' old plan to allow the humans in regular sexual activity start to pass on the trigger gene. That was the point of what Sathanas' initial plan was. Not to make super soldiers, just to start this whole mutate thing happening. So, as I showed you Thomas Kirkland, he's here, and he's here to stop the Next Men. He knows the Next Men are going to blow up the White House, but we know the Next Men aren't bad guys, but are they? Right? So, we'll find out some more things. Washington looming in the background. And this associate, who's just a basic farmer, a good American, is just by his side to help out, right? So here, when we last saw, um, Tony Murchison was pretty upset that Control had Jasmine aboard her baby, and she was like, it would have been a perfectly healthy baby girl, just like to be my own. And here, Jasmine can't fight back. She's using a soldier reflex. We got someone else using soldier reflex on the next men, which was always meant to control, just like I guess in the army they have that sort of thing, right? So then he explains why he got rid of the baby, but he's not really happy to see Axelrod here, right? And they have some harebrained scheme we don't know about. Now, I guess out of my favorites was a Squatter. Squatter is one of my favorites of the next men. And she's squatting in her sister right now. Right? So, and she's ready for her escape. Right? And then, well, they go to Tony Murchison's house. And he takes a picture of her husband, and then they immediately say they have contact. So they knew something sentimental would lead them to her. And now we're at where we just saw Sathanas, right? These guys were there at Sathanas' passing and just waiting around to follow his instructions. And here we have Sandy's boyfriend, if you guys remember that. He's the only one that she left in stitches, right? So Garrison is still a mess after everything else was reversed. But the woman that he had sex with, she's off to who knows where to spread the trigger gene, right? And she's going to go to her ex. They're still good buddies and go to New York. And that's where it's going to spread. Right? That's the looming backdrop of the next men, right? While they're excited, they don't know this is happening. And they don't know this trigger thing is, well, they now know it's going to lead to this stuff. But then we see Sandy. She's a mess. And he says it's all his fault. He looked at good prognosis. And he says goodbye. He says he really liked dancing with her. He still has his backwards ways. And I think as he's been going on, this, I guess, has been the toughest on Byrne to doing kids. But there's some moments here, right? So Sandy, and I didn't get this when I first, but she's using her powers to pull away from the cord. So we don't know if this is helping her life support, or or she's escaping, right? But it looks like she's killing herself, right? So as they're going, they get almost run off the road by this truck. And it's all a silent sequence, right? Where they get run off the road. Right? And then when she wakes up, she's with Axelrod. And Axelrod is a terrible person. We'll find out very soon. And we see that all this is just terrible. He's just checking out Jasmine. He likes the fact that she looks kind of young. Right? So he's just the worst of the worst. Then Axelrod decides he's going to put her into the womb. Right? And he puts her into the womb, and even her abilities won't help her in this. And then, of course, she can't take it. And they leave her like this. And then she passes out. And then she's born again in Project Next Men. All right? So I had this poster. I just got this. Well, I didn't just get it. But I got two posters. I need to get the original poster that I used to have. I'm not sure what happened to it, but Obviously, the covers are painted by Jerry Cody, and the inks by Byrne, but the colors are by Matt Webb. So we got that Gary Cody, and so now, what do we know? It's just starting all over again, right? So this time, you see, all this is there to help him out, and he looks like he's a bit younger, right? She knows what he's up to, he's capable of, so she's immediately pushed away, right? And the rest of the next one come out. She sees everyone she recognizes, but she sees Jack. She's so happy to see Jack, right? We have some other people. No, that's her. Sorry. And she sees him, but Jack has some other things in mind, right? So, all this is saying that that's his, that Jasmine is his wife, and she's like, this is ridiculous, right? So, and this is a great panel to show she's kind of trapped, and they're keeping her in the White House, and then we have Bethany come in here. Now, the great part is that there's no way to know how great this would be. Great for a film to have the real people play these alternate guys, or if they are alternate, we don't know who's alternate, right? So she tries to use her power, but she falls out, and this woman doesn't sound anything like our Bethany, but they're trying to push her, seem like she's talking about the sex thing, and of course he makes his move, and she's not with it, right? She wants to do different things, walk in the garden, and when he comes in, he's open to have sex, right? And he tells her the truth, that he thinks he's a real evil man. And he said Ducklements, he probably came up with that stuff, right? But they're still at his estate. I thought it was the White House. I was wrong. Or maybe they just drove there. Yeah, okay, they're driving back and forth. Sorry. She just can't get with it. This doesn't make any sense to her. She's ready to go out of town. She wants to leave the city by herself. And of course, everything goes wrong. There's a flat. She has to go back. And then he's worried about black people, saying the Negroes. He's a nut. He's a total nut, as we know. Here, the blacks. Jasmine's trying to calm her down, so she's just able to walk the garden. That's what I hinted before. And she's walking the garden, trying to realize what's going on in her life. And she runs into Jack. And Jack is saying he has the same problems. And they reminisce and sort of disappear. And then he said there was a black woman. He said, Toni Murchison. I've been waiting for her to turn up. Right? He remembers the priest. And then Bethany comes along. Right? And it's hell what the plan was. Prepare people for space travel and stuff like that. That was the whole plot and what they were doing. And then she says some sack time, something Bethany probably wouldn't say. Right? So she decides to try to make a real play along with what's going on here. And these couple issues didn't have a M4 insert, right? So it happened. Yeah, now we know that the trigger gene is passed on. Aldous doesn't know that. He is totally in the dark about this, but the next men know through. Well, I guess she might not know. She might not know yet, right? So let's get to look at that great black and white penultimate chapter when all this is taking on this alien. I was like, what the hell is that? This character, right? When I first saw, so there's spoilers here, right? Jasmine back in the greenery, and we notice this dream because we see David, who was pretty, had belief in her, and pretty aggressive. And it turns into a nightmare, and worse than the alien is Aldous. So she hasn't truly bought into it. And she sees Aldous, and she's like, she can't deal with him. Right? So Asteroid comes in here, who's saying that she's her father. And then we see that he's getting a dye job. And he said, why did he want you to have sex with her? He said, I don't know why that was important. It's like saying it's a reward for all my years of loyal service. And the crazy part, this shows you what it is like being with people of power, where ultimately you have to be like a fly on the wall so they don't kill you, right? So it's always in right. So we get this M14. So she's just sitting there, and they're like, "What are you?" And she has been pretty cynical about everything, right? So she starts calling them the person who died. She says she'd tell her to come from the other room. She's kindly figured it out, right? He said no matter where she goes, she was going to run into M4, right? It's good to have a little precursor so we know what happened. And they already did a test on her that she would help him out. And now that she figured out a scheme, he said, what do you... I told her the scheme, right? How do you help the accomplish it, right? So that we see the official that we saw before. And he's like, uh-oh, this is a patsy situation. And calls out with the argue, right? The president goes in there, but she's feeling kind of droozy, right? When he goes in there, he sees Willis Dunklements, and he's like, what game are you playing here? These mind games you're playing with Jasmine. Right? And bringing her to Washington. Right? And he's like, what? Hilltop. He's like, he feels weak. He's like, he feels hungry. And just like we saw with Sathanas, if you remember, he absorbs the life of Willis Dunklements. And he meets his end. Then his aide, she meets her end. And then now Jasmine might meet her end. Right? So as the next one makes their way to Washington, and they say, well, maybe we can talk to the president and figure things out. And they get met by Thomas Kirkland, who we know as Tannen, right? And then this great American, she's like, shoot him. take him out because they already told him that the next one's going to attack. What's the name? He said, hold on. He said, come follow me. And it's like, what? The people that work with Sathanas, they start seeing things the same way that Sathanas told them, right? He said, this is too weird. And Jasmine has no idea what's going on right now, right? And she's totally in shock, but Aldous finally figures out that Sathanas, he knew everything about him because Aldous is Sathanas. And that was a great reveal, right? And this was I don't know if Byrne had someone else in mind for Sathanas, or if he was even from the past. But Matt Webb said that, hey, all this should be Sathanas, and Byrne liked it and used it, right? So now they go, and finally, Thomas Kirkland tells the truth that Janie, he wasn't being straight with her, right? And now she realizes, she knows he was playing possum all this time, right? And he said, you're supposed to blow up, kill the president. I'm going to help you make sure it succeeds. Wow. So that's powerful, right? So there we go. We're rolling. Well, wow, we're only at 20 minutes. This one went really fast, which is great, right? Imagine reading this as a kid and it's just building and building and not knowing where any of this is going to get to here. We got Kirkland, and so we're going to get to some overview of some stuff, right? Since we get into the end. So these same knuckleheads are outside waiting and they're just watching things unfold, right? Another 43 minutes. They keep telling we're not here to blow it up, right? He said, but he doesn't think they're bad guys. Why? Because John Cavanagh told him. He said, John Cavanagh. I believe you knew him as Jack. And he's like, you going soft? You didn't do this to Jasmine? He's like, no. The power works. If you're sated, he can't do it. Can't absorb it after he's eaten, right? So now Aldous' eyes are red. He can't really show him in public. We know that Aldous survives this. He's still known as president. That was revealed, but there's a lot of questions here. We know that there's an attack on Washington. So some of the pieces should be coming together for you guys. It didn't come together for me, but I had to watch it unfold. So this was almost like reading comics when I was a kid, because as a kid I couldn't imagine how stories would play out and or predict knowing so many plots type of deal. So having a comic where you couldn't really figure out what was coming next was always great, right? So like this idea, she's in there and she immediately takes out this guy. And he's like, I'm trying to help you. And when she says Axelrod, it's like, oh no. That guy next to Jasmine. So we have this guy who's a shapeshifter going into the White House, right? And she's gonna set it up and make it work perfectly. And they go there, and he's waiting for it for years. Right, we see Chrissy planning her escape. She gets the car, hot wires it, and she's gone. Now, initially, when the X-Men started, they didn't really know how to drive. They didn't know what a car was. But I think as it went along, like that somehow became a part of their greenery understanding, right? So then Axelrod says something smart about being her father, and she doesn't believe it. And it's possible that he is, because a lot of these knuckleheads provided sperm to these underage girls, right? And Jasmine was ready for him, and she breaks his jaw. And that's the other part of when Byrne not being as clean as he used to be, because when Byrne used to do people beating up, he'd look, he's really going for the grit on here, right? So as this happens, this knucklehead, this something or other from the future comes out and takes her away, right? So they talk over the situation with Thomas Kirtland. He tells him how he knows all this information. He said, but some students wanted to examine between the greatest president and the worst villain, a mutate and the president. So they had the agents look over it from the DNA from the president and the DNA from Sathanas, and they realized they were a match. They were identical. So then they said, wait, that means he was triggered. Who triggered him? So they don't know what's going on here. So Tony's walking, and they run into the space figure, and they take away. He takes away Tony and said, "Don't be afraid." They take out this guard, and then that's how these other guys get in. Right? And now they're seeing the doors are open, everyone is able to walk in, all the security's down because the M4 has gotten in there, right? So as they're about to set charges, the next men are not with it. They're definitely not with the conspiracy, even though they are kind of conspiracy kind of guys. And immediately, Janie woke up, told the police. The lights come on, and Bethany knocks out Kirkland, right? And they have to move fast. They want to get to the president, try to make their plea. They get there and they realize he's triggered already, right? And he's like, "How could you do this?" He said, "I brought you here." He realizes the cosmic scales of balance are in his favor right now. The next men have come. He's created his own relink point, right? And he's gonna, the next one join, he's gonna control the world, right? And as Tannen would say, wrong again. This is where it really becomes a movie. This thing starts ramping up. Gets in there, the Secret Service get in there immediately, take out Kirkland, but then they see the president, something's wrong with his eyes. Then he's going to absorb this guy, but at the same time, the next men are getting yanked out of this thing, just like the other one, just like Jasmine and Antonia. But at the same time, we haven't seen Jack. So that's a part of this mystery, right? Of what's going on here. But this shot here is so killer, right? This way it really makes you feel like a movie. It's all over Santana, so we know he's dying, and he had a bomb on him. Right? So as they go through, those knuckleheads that were in the location, they were able to slip in and take all this out. who of course is now the vampire, so his body can become dormant, like we saw in the first part of the X-Men issue 6, and they're gonna put him into the suit to keep him alive for another 150 years, right? And this, I mean, come on. Now, when this happened and we get to this point here, you see the president is still alive, and it's just very lucky. He becomes Cornelius Van Dam, the shapeshifter, becomes the president for life with his wife at his side, right? And so she has found a way to the top, right? So here, I have to imagine the X-Men. This is all we had to go on. That this was going to be the next issue, and it never came, right? It never came. Not this issue, at least, and all the issues that happened before it. So I'm at 31. That's pretty good. So just to give you an overview, the X-Men at this point became, what is it, like an albatross? Came like Byrne's albatross. That Byrne had left his own creation. That the Image guys were still somehow doing their thing, and Byrne had left his creation. But the comic book industry had fell apart. So that's kind of, Byrne was just going to go on, put it on hiatus for a little while and come back to it, of course. But since the bottom dropped out of the industry, Byrne didn't get to do the series until many years later, right? So Byrne is like, what is he doing? Let me see. So as this went along, what people say now, issue 30 is the perfect ending. In actuality, what they were saying was, how could he not finish this? How could he not finish this? Comparing him to Image guys that had left their creations well before Byrne. Byrne had done 30. I think the only one who's done, sorry guys, only person who's done more consecutive issues is Eric Larson. We can't count Spawn because he already had Greg Capullo ghosting his work fairly early on, right? But this became, no one cared about this ending. They were just saying, oh, he'll never finish it. Why would he do the story and he never finished it? Now that when he has finished it, they're like, oh, he ruined it. How could he ruin it? The ending was perfect that he did before. He should have just ended it like that. But you also have to remember, before I get into the next series of the X-Men, the X-Men was a gut-wrenching experience. I mean, comics for kids can be, like the Batman TV show, it can be excruciating seeing the characters being put through these terrible events. But that's the genre, that's the portion of comics like his peers, like Claremont and Walter Simonson and Miller. They are the Greek tragedy type of writers, right? So they kind of push the killing your darlings, putting the characters through the most, the toughest of situations. And I gotta find, I have the next part of the series, but I'm not doing that now. I think I have to do it in 2 takes, but that's to give you an issue. So I don't know if I should give this big reveal, but I figured out what the X-Men were. And there's supposed to be a continuing part to Mark Ivy, that it would get some more Mark Ivy, but there was some movie or TV that was similar to it, so Byrne kind of put that on the shelf. But, yeah, I mean, for me, because I went through so much drama reading this and such thing, you know, I just wanted more. It was sort of like when Byrne left the Alpha Flight. I kind of wanted more, and the Alpha Flight's kind of precursor to this. But you know, this, I was the one lone person saying this ending was amazing. Even if they felt this was amazing, all they said was, "Why didn't he finish it? Why didn't he finish it? Why didn't he finish it?" So when he finishes it and it's gut wrenching again, I can't even buy into it. It's ridiculous. But ultimately, this is a 31 issue thing, no breaks. Initially a big seller for the indies until Youngblood came and blew it out the water, and the rest of Image. So I guess that's about it. We'll get on to the return. I had the return ready here, but now I don't have it. So I'm just gonna quickly give you some of the, what covers can I give you that won't reveal anything? This is a good one. This one is gonna lead to the series that come up next. See, these guys getting put through all of the terrible stuff, and there's also Aftermath. So I think this will be maybe 3 more videos, but then I want to get into what the next men really is. It's very symbolic of a series, and I think that's going to be a whole separate video. But if you guys got any hints of what series that came before it, that obviously Byrne is a fan of, actually Byrne worked on the title, that this is similar to, write me. And if we do that, you can spoil my video. Anyway, that's it. Spin Rack out.